All right, right now, Ladder Legends, we are looking at a replay from Kestnuts, who is asking, looking for advice on dealing with this cannon rush. I feel like I pulled drones in time and got Lings out very quickly, but I just couldn't shut it down. Went against Split's MedicsUp. So the first thing that I'll note as we go through this replay is that, in general, there will be a video from me coming out about this soon enough, but I will be looking for a 12 or 13 hatchery. It won't really come into effect this game. In fact, the fact that we went for a 15 hatchery and didn't get blocked, or actually we'd even go for a 15 pool, is pretty good for us. But a lot of times we can't really go pool first against Protoss, because if we do, then they'll just block our base, and then we really don't get any advantage out of the pool first. We'll have to take a split base, which is not a super good investment these days, or we'll have to wait to take this base until we get the Lings out, and we're just accepting ourselves from a behind position at that point. Still playable, but obviously the game plan involving us being behind, pretty behind from the start, is not the best. So would recommend a 12 hatchery as opposed to a pool first, but it doesn't come into account this game because we don't get punished for it at all, as the opponent chooses to drop their gateway and their forge and then go across the map. So the fact that we have a spawning pool first here makes this actually a pretty easy defense. The first thing to think about is that unless you're not really planning, if they know where the spots are to wall off, you're not really planning on actually stopping with the drone pull. So typically we're going to when we see this pylon, we'll decide to pull with 3 drones here. One drone will tag itself on the probe, and the other ones will try to get in spots to force other pylons to be made. Notice that the Protoss is quite low on money here, and so the more money we can actually force him to put into pylons, the less transition he can afford, the less more cannons the less of everything that he can afford. Maybe the less drones. Oops. So that's the first thing, is that we really want to be looking at pulling an amount of drones to force pressure on him to build extra stuff and also put pressure on the probe, but we're not really ever thinking we're going to be dealing with this with the drone pull. So as soon as we see this, we can start. There's a couple of different ways besides pulling less drones. There's a couple of different things, factors, and approaches we can go for. One is understanding that if we can force him to put enough investment here, we can at this point just cancel this at last second and take a different base, make a couple of Lings, make sure he doesn't cannon this base, and then use either Queens and a Spine, or a Roach Warren and a couple, like 1 or 2 Ravagers to clean up this area and expand here. This is the perfectly valid way to play whenever they sort of don't go for a super aggressive variation that isn't super economic. We can just say, hey, look, we think that we're doing pretty well here. We're just going to keep on doing our thing, keep on making drones, make a queen, pull for this base, pull a drone over, take this base, cancel this, and then eventually deal with this in a cost-efficient way. And we think that we're doing just fine here. In this case, it's probably okay to do this sort of response. Probably not too big of a deal one way. We could probably do that here. But if we are looking to actually try to save this base, again, the first thing that needs to happen is we need to immediately, one, if we pull less workers, we'll have more money. We need to probably even wait on these Lings, and you want to immediately drop a Roach Warren. You can maybe drop 1 pair of Lings early to try to, again, put more pressure over here. But ultimately, we want to prioritize getting the Roach Warren out, as the Roach Warren is what's going to allow us to get Ravagers, which is what's going to allow us to actually clean this position up. So here, notice that all of this DPS that we're doing here is completely irrelevant, I guess you can say, because there's plenty of pylons. There's 1 photon cannon and plenty of pylons. So unfortunately, even though we get this photon cannon, there's not enough surface area for our Lings to get it and actually shut the cannon down. And there's plenty of pylons over here to actually set it up. So ultimately, this cannon will go up. Now, 1 cannon is not that big of a deal, necessarily. It actually is a lot of time for 1 cannon to actually DPS its hatchery down. So this is where something like, if we had, as soon as we pulled down, made sure that we tagged 1 SCV, one drone on this probe and kept it on this probe, really make it at least one, really make it hard for the probe to actually stay alive and do its thing. Like right here, these drones could come over and they could just end the probe right now. And if they end this probe right here, we can probably just pull back with everything, counter with the lings immediately, get a queen and maybe a spine started, start like a creep tumor, and or not even a creep tumor, but since this will be done, throw the spine and the queen down and deal with this cannon, because there's only one cannon here. So just a queen and a spine alone probably deals with this cannon just fine, so long as this probe dies. So prioritize killing this probe especially when there's only one probe. They don't bring two probes. Super big deal. Would have just made this game be a lot simpler. But ultimately, like I said, I think that you'd really only have two drones attacking pylons here to force these pylons. So one would be attacking here until it's done, and then it comes around and goes here and attacks here. One goes around and attacks here. And this is because you're threatening to make lings, so he has to keep the pylons up. He has to spend his money on that. Notice he has very little money here. One drone would then be tagged onto this probe, and we could still make a pair of lings, or eventually after we drop the roach one, we can make some more pairs of lings to try to deal with this probe and then potentially counter. Once this roach swarm finishes, if we were doing like the more conservative variation that I was talking about, where we're only pulling a couple of drones, 3 drones really, once the roach swarm finishes, we would just kind of make at least, like we've probably on this particular cannon rush, we would only like still saturate 1 gas. We wouldn't necessarily even take 2 gases. And we'd make 1 or 2 Ravagers kind of based on the number of cannons he made. Probably like 2 is a good number, even if he only makes 1. But if he made like 3 cannons, then we could probably afford make 3 Ravagers. But you want to like scale the investment of your Ravagers to the number of cannons that he makes, so that whatever you're slowing yourself down in by making the Ravagers, you also know that he's slowed himself down quite a bit as well. In this case, we probably can still save this base, but we're also looking to take this 3rd base, and keeping this base alive isn't super crucial. You can sort of make the judgment call about whether or not you cancel, whether or not you keep it, sort of game by game based on what's going down, what's happening. You'd have to have a lot more experience. I won't lie to you and say that I've played against Cannon Rush enough on this patch to be able to tell you every situation you need to cancel the base or save the base. But just know that you're not that concerned about saving the base, so long as you don't pull a big investment in order to actually keep it alive. If we keep most stuff mining, we just make a couple of Ravagers to clean this up, then we're very happy with taking this base and saving this base if we can, but if not, being completely fine. We've already forced out, in this case, we forced out 2 cannons. We'd probably make 2 Ravagers in order to combat those cannons. We would write this base off as a loss. As soon as like the pylon's sort of finished, the drones can go back to mining. 1 drone can come over here and start thinking about taking this base. And then very slowly, the Ravagers can come down and actually clean these cannons up. One thing that I'll note is that if we give up now, and we had just dropped like a spine crawler as soon as like we'd forced, so even in this game, so let's get out of the theoretical and back to this actual game. I don't think this is a very solid defense. However, with how much he has invested on this side of the map, this many pylons, he's had 1 pylon, 2 pylons, 3, 4, 5, 6 pylons, 7 pylons, and he had 2 cannons, 3 cannons, I believe. 8 pylons and 2 cannons. Eight pylons and 3 cannons. So at this point, if we were to drop 2 spines, probably right now, or maybe a little bit before this, when we first got 200, we started to drop a spine or 2 spines. So right when we got 100, here we drop a spine, and you drop the spine here. You can drop it, literally take one of these drones and drop a spine, and then probably even just the 1 spine is fine here. We would be able then to move the spine down, or 2 spines, kind of depending, and actually clean this up, because we do get the 1 cannon down, so it's just the 1 cannon that's even close to done. And he's made so much investment here. We really are still going to be quite ahead. His Nexus is going to be super, super late. So if we had just started spines earlier, whenever we had the money for it, when we were like, we don't know if we're going to be able to shut this down entirely because he's got a lot of like hidden cannons, but like he's not going to have a lot of cannons up. We have a lot of health on the base. We can then pull all the drones back before this cannon finishes, pull the lings back, wait for the spines to finish, send the spines in, send the lings in as soon as the spines get into range, and then try to, I'd probably try to force down this pylon since this pylon is the lowest HP to let the lings in, and we'd probably be able to hold even in this game. But if you notice, he's very, very committed to actually killing this base, and he's willing to like invest a lot into killing this base. So if we just pull just enough to force him to invest a lot to defend his base, and then take a third, we'll probably be completely ahead. So I think my biggest recommendation would be go for the against this sort of player. Go for the let me force you to build a lot of stuff here to kill my base, and then I can even cancel the base and have the third be taken, or leave the base up and just let it die eventually, and then clean it up efficiently with one or two Ravagers after the fact. All right, if you enjoyed this, then please join Ladder Legends Discord. And if you're a subscriber there, you can post replays and get them reviewed, like this one. Thanks. Bye.